Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement 2. This is a super mini mail call, and we have a package here, a rather big one and heavy, from Georgia, Woodstock, Georgia. I don't think it has the name on the outside of the box because this came from a UPS store, and they usually just put the name of the employee. So let's open this up and see what's in here. There's quite a few things floating around in here. Hopefully it survives shipping. All right, I just opened it up and we do have a letter here. The letter reads, Adrian, this is the interesting Apple II clone I told you about. It is one of the only vintage computers I have ever seen in the wild in my area. I bought it at a yard sale with the memory that you had mentioned that you're interested in clones. I don't even know anything about the machine, but I did find the extra breadboard areas in the motherboard to be quite interesting. I worked at Radio Shack during my teenage years, and I collect Tandy color computers and Tandy 1000 systems, so I enjoy your work on those systems. My son is into Apple II GS and early Macintosh systems. We both enjoy your videos on those systems, as well as just about everything else you put on your channel. I've joined your Patreon. I encourage others to do so. I will send you some color computer items in the near future. Sincerely, Mike from Marietta, Georgia. I'm just covering up the bottom here because has his last name. And Mike did write, enjoyed meeting you at VCF Southeast in Atlanta. And indeed, Atlanta was a lot of fun. I got to meet a bunch of viewers there. I mean, it's a small VCF show, but it was absolutely a blast. And because the VCF Southeast show is not nearly as big as some of the other ones, it's not like a crush of people and overcrowded. So it was actually a little bit more mellow and chill for me, although I still ended up losing my voice because I was still chit-chatting with everyone, as I love to do. And then VCF Southeast is attached to the Southern Fried Gaming Expo, which is like a giant retro game expo, huge. And tons of arcade machines and table games and all that stuff. So if you wanted to go see VCF, you also got to go see all the game stuff. So it was sort of you could double dip with the single entrance fee. Now, I just found the email from Mike talking about this Apple II, and he sent this email to me several months ago. And I do remember meeting you, Mike, at VCF, but if you got a selfie with you and me there, please send that over. I would love to save that in my gallery of VCF pictures because that was a new thing I did this time. In fact, if you met me at any of the other VCFs in, previous years past, please send me those selfies in email if you don't mind, because I love to have a record. I hardly take any pictures at these VCF events, and especially not selfies of me and the viewers. So I kind of was asking people this time to send them over, and a bunch of people did, and I absolutely love that. And again, Mike, thanks for coming and chatting with me, and yeah, it was pretty amazing. And let's take a look at the Apple II in here, and let's hope that it survived. I see it's floating around in here a little bit. All right, first thing we have is some, I don't know, it's a Claris power package. Hopefully that is, I don't know, we'll see what that is in a second. Kimtech, what are these? Delicate task wipers? Delicate task wipers? For cleaning your screen or something like that? All right, and here's the computer. It's sort of in pieces a little bit, but I think that is, yeah, it's by design. There's no screws in there. It's not like it's broken. The keyboard survived, which is really exciting. Look at this thing. Look at this. I can't even believe it. It's a mechanical keyboard, everyone. Actually, it is mechanical. The little ribbon cable has seen better days, but hopefully we can fix that. And let's keep going. There's more goodies in here. There's a power supply, a total clone power supply. Okay, and in the bottom here is the motherboard, which is an Apple II Plus clone motherboard. It's a little beat up, but I think it should be all right. There it is. And then we have the base of the case here, which definitely seen better days. I'd have to ask Mike if he tried to repair this, because it does look like there was a lot of corrosion on this thing at some point, and it's been like sprayed with some rust converter and whatnot. But I think everything is, well, good to go with this case. Doesn't have anything on the bottom, no sticker or anything showing anything, but yeah, it looks like it's definitely been sprayed with some rust converter. But that's fine. You know what? It's good enough to make this thing work again, and to be honest, it's the top and the keyboard that's the hard part. And if that keyboard had broken keys, well, we'd be in a lot more trouble. All right, so that is it for what's in the box. All right, so let's see here. Oh, this does appear to be Claris stuff. This Claris package weighed like more than the whole computer, I think, when it comes to like shipping costs. So we have a Mac Paint manual. This is for the much later version of Mac Paint, of course. We got MacWrite 2 getting started. All right. So, okay. And then we have FileMaker Pro. This is a pretty popular package. I don't even know if Claris ended up being the ones who own this thing, going forward. But yeah, I remember at work, at my day job, people were using FileMaker Pro for like all sorts of database related activities, and then things would get corrupted and they would be upset, and yeah, yada, yada, yada. Okay, FileMaker Pro. Oh, wow, there's just more discs in here. And another unopened MacWrite 2 book as well. All right, and let's see here what we got disc-wise. So FileMaker Pro, utilities. This is FileMaker Pro Backup. Another FileMaker Pro. Some more FileMaker Pro stuff. Okay, so that's all just FileMaker Pro. And then we have this, which is MacWrite. 3 copies of MacWrite, or help, reference, and then the main program. And then this one I assume is MacDraw. MacDraw 2 dictionary and templates, MacDraw, and MacDraw. You know, I think MacDraw, they were trying to make a more professional program at some point, like adding Adobe Illustrator type features. I gotta admit, I used like the earliest versions of MacDraw, or no, Mac Paint. Yeah, MacDraw, that was like Bezier curves and stuff. I never used any of this stuff. I never used MacWrite. I did use programs on the original Mac SE, because I talked about in the past that family had one of those computers, but we had Microsoft Word on there and Microsoft Excel and stuff like that. And we never used FileMaker. I remember my stepfather, he had a little database created for him in HyperCard. And it was like, he ran a little small business and he had all these like contact records and stuff in that HyperCard database. As cool as that is, it was a little bit of a bad idea to be using HyperCard that way, because it was really not possible, well, I don't think it was possible to export the data very easily into some other format that you could use with other machines and stuff like that in the future. In fact, while my stepfather, I think, has a Mac now, he had PCs for many, many, many years, or he might still have a PC, I can't remember. And either way, I'd have no idea if he still has access to any of his old business records and stuff that were in HyperCard back in the day. It wasn't me who set that stuff up for him. He had a consultant that helped him with that. What is this? Delicate wipes. How does this... Okay, now the thing is, I worry about products like this because while this is definitely like a really good lint-free type paper, oh, and it's really, wow, that's very, very strong. So it sort of has the consistency of a tissue, but yet doesn't, well, it tore it there pretty easily. It's a lot stronger than a tissue. What I worry about these is if they will scratch really delicate surfaces like plastic, like fine plastic. If you rub too hard with this, if it's like paper, which is like wood fiber basically, and it can scratch plastic. So Mike, if you're watching and you have ideas what these are really good to use for, or if anyone else is watching and you know these little science wipe, Kimtech wipes, definitely let me know. Okay, let's take a look at this motherboard, because this is kind of the star of the show here. Oh, look at this thing. I love it. I love these clones. Apple II clones to me are like the best. Okay, so let's look what we got going on here. Clearly this is an Apple II Plus clone board, right? So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 slots. So we have 8 slots total, including slot 0, which is used for like the RAM expansion card, which would typically connect up to this RAM chip. And if you notice, this is all the RAM chips are like completely randomized on here. What brand is this? I don't even recognize that brand there. So a lot of the chips are that, but we definitely have some other stuff mixed in. So that's different. All of the first bank looks different. So it could have been that this thing's had some bad chips over time, which is why we have like this TI chip here and here from 1989, NEC chip here, an NEC chip there, and then an NEC chip there. So, okay, we don't have like a ton of stuff. Oh, and then we have this one-off brand, which is, oh, no, it's the same as the rest of these, which is Moztec. Okay, so Moztec. So it's almost like the first bank, this is the first bank down here, is Moztec. So probably this computer was originally 16K, and then someone expanded it to 48K. And my assumption is that someone had the RAM expansion card, which took this chip out, or this chip and that chip just went bad over time, and they swapped those out. Now, these types of clone motherboards are very much, whoa, okay, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought because I saw this. What the, they're transistors and they're like really long packages. I'm gonna trim the legs off these because they're all bent, and then we'll stick them back in so they're not sticking out as far. And actually they're really quite corroded there. So let's get this in. I have never seen, now this motherboard is all socketed, and I've just never seen anyone put transistors like this in sockets. And this crystal, I think that just has a bad solder joint on the bottom, so we'll have to fix that. This computer's not gonna work with this like that. And then this transistor as well. Let's cut these leads off. All right, there we go. These are in a lot better in the sockets there, so that's not going to be a problem now. Let's fix this wobbly crystal here, and I should probably give this thing a little bit of a check over because it kind of was being banged around a little bit in shipping. So I just sort of do my normal thing where I bend these parts back, make sure the chips are all in the sockets, all that kind of stuff. This machine's definitely going to be a direct clone of the regular Apple II Plus in pretty much every way. There might be some, well, some of the differences are it's going to use normal EPROMs. So they would have like reconfigured these sockets because the original II Plus and the Apple II used mask ROMs and they didn't use the normal pinout in there. But that's the usual change that these clone motherboards have. Now, I'm always super fascinated by these clones because I just love the fact that these were illegal and they were sold on the open market, but then Apple was really clamping down on the clones. And because of that, yeah, lots were sold early on, but then those companies are just gone. So these clones, and this one you could see the case had no badge or anything on it. Well, you know, that they were still being sold in the back pages of magazines and stuff like that. And I just freaking love it. Now, usually the ROMs that are on this thing are just like blatant copies of the Apple II ROMs. And then what happened is they just essentially would change just like the boot string on the top where it said Apple II to, you know, whatever, something else. And then we're good to go. Incidentally, this is not a missing chip. That's where the keyboard connects. I got to fix that. Everything else so far looks fine. This thing has all of its chips in place. This transistor here is not in a socket, unlike the other one. That one looks fine. The speaker connection right here has got a little bit of, kind of a little bit of corrosion around it. So that's a bit interesting. So this is what Mike was talking about, these little prototype areas. And I think this was just done by the clone manufacturers because there was just some extra space here. I think originally, I don't think Apple ever put these on there, but just in the board layout, these clone manufacturers they were able to get a little extra space. And they're like, oh, we'll just put in this little prototype area. So if you ever want to do your own little mod circuits and stuff, you could just put them right on there. I mean, every single thing is in a socket on this motherboard, right? So we are like really good in that regard. Let's see here. This chip here is not normally there on the real Apple II either. And here's another transistor that is not socketed. There are some mods here, or not mods, but like little jumpers so you can cut through or put little solder bridges on here for various reasons. And I don't remember exactly what those do, but I think some of that stuff's on the original Apple II as well. Over here in the video section, they look pretty good. I mean, this thing's got the audio cassette ports here, video out. This adjusts the level, that's for the joystick port. This thing is just an Apple II Plus clone in pretty much every way. And then of course an Apple II and II Plus are the same. There were some slight revisions as the Apple II went through its iterations, but you know, the ROMs are the main difference in the II Plus and the II. And the later II Pluses had the RFI boards where the ground plane, so this ground around the edge, was split around here. And that was for like RF to kind of isolate this video section. And actually really hurts the video performance on that Apple II, makes it terrible with these lines and stuff. And I did a mod, I think it was in one of my videos, where I like sanded away the solder mask and I put bridges on the ground plane here to connect this ground plane to the rest of the motherboard, and that like fixed those lines. Really terrible, terrible design there. I mean, that was a bodge, I guess, on their part. Bottom of the board is looking kind of messy, but okay as well. I mean, it sucks that, look how these are mostly filled in from the wave soldering, I guess, or whatever. They probably should have put a piece of tape over that so that wouldn't have been soldered when it went through. But yeah, this thing is looking good. So let's look at this power supply, which is really Really, what? Wait, worse for wear, it's a Seasonic. It's a Seasonic Apple II clone power supply. I'm glad I have this because I may not end up using this because the inside might be extremely sketchomatic. It's got a lot of corrosion on the bottom here. I mean, just look at the screws here. Let's open this up and take a look inside the seats. Oh, the screw is really rusted on there. I'm not sure that's going to come off. I might have to use the... Okay, good, it's coming off. I was going to say I might have to use the angle grinder to get that off. Oh, one screw there. And one screw on this side. Oh, how sketchy is this gonna look? I can see it's a clone of the power supply Apple II one where the PCB is mounted on the top of the case, so components face down. So that means when you get those screws out, the way you get this out is you don't have to take the rivets apart. You just pry this plate out here. It should come out. There it is. Oh, yeah, that's a lot simpler than the actual Apple II power supply. Made by Seasonic. Hurrah! It might work totally fine. Does this even have a feedback circuit? I'm not even sure. Might use a feedback winding. So, you know, we have the input side here. This is the main switching transistor or chopper for the high voltage DC. So the AC is rectified, turned into DC, and then it gets chopped, so turned back into AC, and then goes through this transformer. And of course, it's high voltage and high frequency, which allows the transformer to be smaller. Then that comes out and has a couple diodes here to take that AC waveform and turn it back into DC. So we have like the 5-volt rail here, or whichever has the highest current capacity, and then this might be like a minus 12 or positive 12-volt diode here, and then the minus 12, which the thing does have, probably has a small diode on the board, and then there'll be a little voltage regulator, which might be this one right here that turns the minus 12 volts into the minus 5 volts that the computer uses. And I guess there is actually a little optocoupler right there. That looks like this is the optocoupler. So that's the feedback circuit from this side. Back over here, it does have a fuse. It really lacks any input filtering, so there's no REFAs. It does say Seasonic right there. There's the bridge rectifier. I mean, who makes these caps? Can I see a brand on the caps? I can't really tell who makes these caps. They're sort of a blue color. Oh boy, if any caps aren't working, it might be these little caps right here that would stop this power supply from working, like this one here. Probably these little tiny parts right here are what run the switching power supply. So that's what runs this chopper here. And this cap is used as a little power supply to start the power supply up. So if it won't start, often this cap right here is the culprit. I don't see any leaking or any kind of problems. Everything looks fine. There are 2 screws there, and it does seem to be missing the screw right there, the ground screw. It does have it on this side at least. 90 to 130 volts. Model 461A, 5 volts, 5 amps, minus 5 volts, 0.5 amps, plus 12, 2.5, and there's the minus 12 volts. Now, when we look at the power supply connector here, we have probably this one here, which is going to be ground, 5 and 12 volts, and then we have these thinner wires here for the minus 12 and the minus 5. And indeed, it's actually written on the PCB as silkscreen markings. So plus 5 is the thick blue wire, plus 12 is the thick red wire, and definitely common is the black wire. That is the ground. So let me hook up a load and let's see if this thing works. So for load, what I've been doing lately is I just use these light bulbs here, and we got some nails, and these nails allow us to get connected to the power supply. Yep, there we go, it works well. All right, I think I have this all connected correctly. These are 12-volt bulbs, and they have dual filament. So I wouldn't be surprised if these are like 10-watt bulbs, and that means the 12-volt rail will be pulled down to about 1.2 amps. It's good for 2.5 according to this, and the 5-volt rail is good for 5 amps. In fact, I think what I might want to do is just put all the load on the 5-volt rail. Well, actually, I think I'll just leave it as is, and we'll just try it this way. I can't tell which is on or off for the power supply, so we're going to see if I can connect onto the power switch here. It's a little fiddly. So there, now it's on, now it's off. Okay, that's just a safety thing. I just want to make sure when I plug it in, it's actually off. See what's what. 5-volt rail is this red one. So this is, or sorry, the blue wire. So that's what we're going to connect to right here. And you can see that. I'm not gonna touch anything here. I think we're good. Nothing is shorting. Yep, everything looks fine. Okay, there we go. Here we go. Okay, it's not starting. It was just clicking. So we may be overloading one of the rails. So I'm just going to pull out this red wire here. We'll put another wire onto here, the 5-volt rail. How about now? There we go. Oh, look at that. 5.02 volts. It's freaking working. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? It's regulating okay. Let's switch this to AC here. Those caps are functional. We have very little amount of jitter on the 5-volt rail. So cool. I kind of like this little setup I have here. I need some more. These get hot though, because they are incandescent. Because when, yeah, it's a dual filament setup, but one of the filaments doesn't glow on 5 volts. So they'll both work, of course, on 12 volts. So back on DC though, it's losing regulation a little bit. So there is an adjustable potentiometer over here. So let's turn this off for a sec. And we'll, in fact, I should probably hit that with a little contact cleaner because I bet you that pot is a bit dirty. Whoa, it just sprayed. Didn't get in my face or anything, but all right, so we'll move this back and forth here. Okay, how about now? Okay, 5.0 whatever. Okay, definitely this controls 5-volt regulation. So we'll leave it at 507 there, and let's let it sit. Let's hope, yeah, it does drop, but it's certainly not very accurate. What if we like bang this? Look at that, it changes a lot. And this power supply is not the best. I should put a screw in there, the one screw that's missing to hold the PCB down. See if I can figure out what kind of screw it takes. There we go, that holds it down without issue. This could also be an issue with bad solder joints on this thing. I mean, it's possible. This stuff is all sort of like flopping around in the wind. Let's turn this back on. Okay. Yeah, regulation now. If we bang it, look at that, how much it changes. Not good. I do suspect it's this cap or this adjustable potentiometer here. Oops. Yep. Turning it too low causes it to go into a shutdown. Oh yeah, this pot is not good. It's very flaky. Let's get a little more contact cleaner on it. This potentiometer here just may not be good. Okay, 5.09. See how drifty it is. I mean, this is fine. This is going to run the computer without any issue. Ah, look, that might have helped quite a bit. Look at this. Let's see if banging this changes it. It still changes it, though. At least it doesn't change it as dramatically, though. Let's see if I tap on that part. Okay. Let's let it sit. These things are getting hot. I can just feel the heat coming off these bulbs. Feel that heat. Ooh, it's like a hand warmer. If it were winter. It's not. It's summer. It's nice out. Ah, look, it's still drifting. What's the deal with that? Now, I wonder if is that possible that the light bulbs are causing that? Well, I think what I'm going to do is just let this sit for a little while, and we'll see if this thing like drifts way out of whack. Because for now, I mean, this is fine. It started at, 507 or whatever it was. Does seem to be heading down, though. But if it just stays here at 5 volts, and maybe I should leave this for like 5 minutes, and what I should do, actually, I'm going to turn this off for a sec, and let's see how the 12-volt rail is performing while the 5 volts is loaded up. So 12 volts is unloaded, but I think that should be fine. So it's a bit high, but that's okay. 12 volts is usually only used for like bias and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do again is I'm just going to leave this and let it kind of like warm up, and we'll keep an eye on what happens here. We saw this started up at 507 again, and it seems this power supply drifts down as it goes for whatever reason. And the only thing I want to do is I'm going to try to bounce these off the mat a little bit. There we go. So they are not touching this rubber because they're, like I said, pretty warm. We're definitely losing voltage though. What a strange power supply that it drifts like this. 12 volts are fine though. but definitely, look at that, banging it. Really? We should poke around. Let me get the plastic thing here. Let's poke around on the output side here. Let's see if anything changes when I poke it. So not that. Not that. How about these caps here? Okay, it went back up again. Oops. Yeah, I feel like this is definitely part of the regulation circuit that's issue, and that's this stuff right here. So there's a little transistor right here, optocoupler. All right, anyways, it is now 36 minutes past the hour. That's warm. I'm just gonna let this sit here and we'll see what happens. All right, it's been about 5 minutes and it's definitely drifted down, but I don't know what's going on. If we turn this off and on here while it's all nice and warmed up, I mean, it's not, I don't feel a ton of heat coming off of here, but let's turn it off, turn it back on. And it went up a little bit, but then let's do the old percussive maintenance. Okay, you know what, that's not doing anything now. And I did, while I was off camera there, I was like poking around at various components here in the voltage regulation circuit, and nothing seemed to do anything. Now it could be these diodes getting hot. I mean, I'm probably putting quite a lot of load on it here with these 2 light bulbs here, but everything seems okay. Let's do some percussive maintenance again. Just jumping around a little bit, banging it. Well, anyways, I think this is going to be good enough for testing that system. Usually TTL works down to like 4.8 volts without any problem whatsoever. So I think this should be fine as long as this like stays around 5 volts. And maybe what we'll do just for safety is we'll turn it up slightly here. We'll just turn it up just a little bit. And we have to remember that this will start up as around 5.1 volts and will like drift down here. Look, it's drifting again. But if we, I do think that pot is part of the problem actually, because look, it's still messing up. If I push on it, that doesn't really do anything. What if we bang this thing now? Yeah, I don't know, but this is okay. So, okay, enough with the power supply. I think we're good to go for testing that motherboard. I would just use one of my other normal Apple II power supplies, but I can't because this connector is different. This is the same kind of connector actually. Oh, wow. This is hot. So I was drawing a lot of current. It's not hot, but it's definitely warm. So it's definitely warm out of that pin there. We might have been getting voltage drop, honestly, due to the heat issues. So nothing else is hot here, just the end of this nail. Probably what that means is I should spray some Deoxit into there as well. All right, mouse pad, motherboard, which is in really clean shape. I'm confused. Okay, the power supply would be like this in the case. This is a really tight fit. Like, that's not even really long enough. That's so strange. Why is the cord so short? There's no way the power supply is in the case like this, sticking up that far. But this really, unless you stretch it like super tight, I don't know. That is odd. Okay, it's no big deal because we can obviously just extend the cable. All right, so this is keyed, only goes on one way. Remember, I'm gonna put some Deoxit in there. So let's get the Deoxit into here, just to help with any connection issues. But yeah, it's keyed, so it only goes on one way. There we go, and it clips on as well. Let's hook up a speaker to this thing so we can hear some beeps. We'll put a little Deoxit on the connector there. All right, so speaker, power supply, which we know works. I just need a monitor or something, but let's just first power this up first without anything connected, just to hear if it is even trying to run any code. We may end up having to have a separate, more in-depth repair video. Okay, here we go. Well, power supply is running, but I didn't hear any sound. Now, I don't know for sure is how the speaker connects up here, because it's a 3-pin connector. Oh, we're not hearing anything. Oh, you know what I just realized, everyone? I forgot to fix this crystal down here, and I think if that's got a bad connection, there is no way this thing is gonna run at all. This whole section down here is a bit of a disaster, so I'm just gonna kind of reflow that. All right, so it actually looked like that crystal is soldered properly. It just wasn't, you know, attached to the board very firmly. I think this is the output right here of it. So let's power this on, see if we even get oscillation. All right, there it is. We are getting, oh, it's impossible to read, isn't it? 14 megahertz. So that seems about correct. Okay, so we power this on. All right, so let's check the video output. Is there video of any kind? I would say negative. There's not video on this machine. It's like it's just outputting some solid voltage. Oh, there's the CPU clock, 1.02 megahertz. So that's a good sign right there. You don't have anything without clock. Yeah, 1.02 megahertz. Let's jump to see if there's any activity on the address or data bus lines here. I mean, yeah, that right there, that looks like some activity. This could be as simple as bad sockets as well, because we know this thing's, you know, has some issues. But there does appear to be some activity. All right, well, anyway, we know this machine is not working. It's not outputting any video. It does seem to be trying to do something. Doesn't seem to beep the speaker, though, when you turn it on. The chips are definitely getting warm, so thing is powered up. Power supply is working to some extent. And luckily, this thing's entirely in sockets. Can be a bad thing, because I've done this before with the Apple II and the 2 Plus on the channel, where we definitely had bad sockets that were causing all sorts of issues. The fact is, though, I think the best thing to do is to start figuring out what's happening with the video circuit, because even when the Apple II CPU is not working, you should still have video. The video should be displaying what's in memory. If the video is outputting nothing, then we definitely have some issues in this part of the circuit over here as well. So I need to investigate what that is first to find out why it's not just showing what's in memory. Once that's working, you get some really good diagnostic aids to try to help you figure out what's wrong with the computer. And then we can kind of go on from there. But yeah, it's working. The RAM's hot, but that's pretty normal. These other TTL chips, not so bad. CPU, sort of warm. And these ROMs. All right, I'm going to move the motherboard out of the way, and we're going to move over to take a look at the keyboard and the case top a little bit better, you know, with the top-down camera here. Oh, this connector is really hard to get off. There we go. So here is the the case top. Let me move the camera a little bit. Look at this. It's okay. This is I think I'm gonna say this is an Alps keyboard. Let's pull one of these keycaps off. This is an Alps SKCC keyboard. Yep, there it is. It's either the real thing or some kind of a clone. Can you tell with that key switch? But it feels really nice to type on. And the good thing is these Alps SKCC keycaps aren't broken. And then I have, wait, poke? What is this? It has like shortcuts on the front of the keycaps. What is this? Catalog? Is this something like a ZX Spectrum or something? This must be the reset button right here, by the way. This is what the power LED is, I assume. But yeah, HDR1 or what? And this has like PR number 1 through 7. And these look double shot. Well, yeah, it is double shot. I don't know if these letters are printed on there or not. But like I said, the keyboard feels actually, it feels really nice to type on for a clone. And then a number keypad with no enter key. That's amusing. Wait, there's a reset key right there. So what does this do, I wonder? Definitely is very much the 2 Plus layout, although is the enter key or return key up here? Repeat? Yeah, I think it is. I think that's how it is. There's a repeat. So it's definitely copying the Apple II Plus, but with a really, really nice keyboard. No badge, a little bit of case yellowing, absolutely is copying the case mold of the Apple II. It's just using Velcro, aka hook and loop here, for holding the case cover down. Notice how shallow this is, a lot shallower. In fact, on the real 2 or 2 Plus, this part of the case also comes off with the logo. But on this thing, it's just this small little piece here. All right, let's flip this over, and the lid just sort of fell off. The hook and loop isn't working so well anymore. So yeah, that gives you a look at the inside of the case. We got a little bit of rust residue from the bottom plate there. And then there's the keyboard. So instead of the normal keyboard encoder that Apple's using, which is like a microcontroller on the 2 Plus, has a bunch of TTL logic here. It's missing a screw, so someone has been into there. I know it's a little hard to see because of the glare. Made in Taiwan, HY Safon-2AF keyboard 83050104. My assumption is this is something to do with like date code or whatever. I absolutely, positively love this computer. I've had this grin on my face the entire time because it's just, I absolutely love it. I can't wait to get the motherboard working so we can see like what it says. If it just says Apple II, I mean, I know I could dump the ROMs or whatever, but maybe it's gonna have like the name of this clone. And I wonder if this ever had a badge. I mean, there doesn't seem to be any glue residue, so I'm assuming it never had a badge. But I love this thing. I mean, I know it's not like, it's not special in that it's not different than the original Apple II Plus. Like, I don't think this thing does anything that that computer doesn't already do, except of course this has a number pad. But on the other hand, it's so illicit, it's so illegal and brazen that they were selling this thing with completely stolen ROMs and everything. I mean, it's kind of like the early days of the IBM PC as well. It seems like the keyboard is not in there all the way. I think that's where the screw is missing on that side. But you know what? It's not bent or anything. And I freaking love it. I absolutely love it. So Mike, thank you very much for sending this in. I cannot wait to dig into this more and see if I can get this motherboard working and then put this thing back together and get like an amazing Apple II clone. This is now the second Apple II clone I have. I have that other one that a viewer sent in a while back that looks like a TRS-80 Model 1, and that thing does work as well, totally works. It's a 2 Plus as well. It has no slots, so the one thing I want to do to that is try to hotwire in a Disk 2 controller card so I can boot some software on there. That would make it a lot more useful than it is now because it's just a cassette only type machine. But I can't wait to get this thing working, and it should be no problem to troubleshoot this. These clones generally have the chips in the exact same position as on the Apple II Plus, and they use basically the same position or the same chips, except for the odd maybe transceiver here, and then the ROMs, as I said, are going to be EPROMs versus mask ROM. So there's a little bit of changes there. Anyhow, this should be a fun thing to get working. Look for a future repair video on this awesome machine. Thanks again, Mike, for sending it in, and thank you for everyone else who sent in stuff on mail call episodes. I really, really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. If you've ever seen this exact clone or any ads for this clone, definitely let me know as well. I'll be super curious if we can try to place when this thing was being sold. All right, and looking at the dates on these chips, I see 79, 79, 79, there's an 80. Now they're all socketed, so that doesn't necessarily mean like when this thing was really built, but the fact is there's a lot of chips on here that are 79. I'm gonna make the assumption that this thing is from very early 80s, so maybe someone can find in the back pages of one of the little magazines or whatever, someone selling this exact machine, and we can put 2 and 2 together, and then that would be amazing. It'd be a little great historical context for this machine. So anyways, thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't like it, you know, all the usual stuff. Thanks to my patrons, their names are scrolling up beside the screen. Thank you very much for Mike for sending this in. I really, really appreciate it. Thanks to everyone I met at VCF, at all the VCFs. I really enjoyed it. And sorry about everyone I didn't get to meet at VCF West because I had human malware, AKA COVID-19. And I think that's gonna be that. So stay healthy, stay safe, and I will see you next time. Bye.